There's a class of plant-based compounds called polyphenols. And these are basically the colored compounds that are present in anything that's brightly colored. And you'll find a reasonable amount of them in leafy green vegetables and fruit and things like that, but frankly, not that many. Where they explode is in herbs and spices. So the more herbs and spices you use, things like rosemary, oregano, thyme, fennel, all of those have masses of these things. The average Westerner gets about 1 gram of these powerful plant-based compounds in their food if they're eating just a regular diet, and they're drinking coffee. Coffee is the #1 source of polyphenols in the West. And from an anti-aging perspective, my goal is to get 4 or 5 grams a day. So I drink my coffee, I eat chocolate, I drink green tea, and I eat my vegetables. I put extra herbs on them because the evidence is that your cells can work better when they have enough of these plant-based compounds. So I look at these anti-aging compounds and performance-enhancing compounds. Different polyphenols do different things. And there's this amazing synergistic dance between what Mother Nature makes and what humans want. One of the things that makes us happy as humans is to perform better. No one likes to say, I cooked dinner and I did a crappy job. Like, even if it wasn't necessary you did a good job, you just want to. Like, it feels good to do something with excellence. So one of the things that we're attracted to are things that enhance human performance. Fire enhances human performance. 1 million years ago or something, there were 2 cavemen, and one of them said, I'm going to use fire to stay warm, and the other one said, that's cheating. Well, the guy who said, fire is going to keep me warm, he's our ancestor. The other guy didn't make it. So we have a built-in innate desire to do that. And for thousands of years, probably tens of thousands of years really, we have been using plant-based compounds in a way that is based on direct observation from people who use them over multiple generations. And the Mother Nature smart drugs that are just endemic out there that people don't think of as smart drugs. #1, it's caffeine. Coffee, tea, and chocolate. Global wars have been fought over these compounds. They have fueled human progress. The Enlightenment in Europe was based on the explosion of coffee houses. Civilization is tied to these things. You go back 5,000 years in China, there was tea. And they tracked the different grades and what they did. And we knew this. You go back in India, tea. Go back in Africa, coffee. So this stuff has been around. What's the other massive, most studied smart drug that Mother Nature makes that no one's ever heard of? It's actually tobacco. Smoking is terrible for you. Everyone knows smoking is bad for you. Everyone knows it makes you smell bad, it makes you look old, and all the bad stuff, cancer, teeth falling out, whatever else. However, when people use nicotine, they type 15% faster. Their working memory improves. They perform better. And we are so wired to perform better that we are willing to give up the second half of our quality of life to feel good right now. And emerging studies in the last 30 years from an academic researcher at Vanderbilt, I call him Dr. Nicotine when I interviewed him on Bulletproof Radio. He's like, hey, here's the first paper that shows from the 1980s that low doses of oral nicotine, and not smoked, but just purified nicotine, reverse Alzheimer's disease. If you look at what's likely to kill you today if you're in the West, it's diabetes, cancer, heart disease, and Alzheimer's disease. And I just wrote an anti-aging book looking at these 4 things. What if a very tiny amount of nicotine on a daily basis not only made you smarter, faster, made your cells work better, but also reduced your risk of Alzheimer's? Well, I do not sell nicotine. If I did, I wouldn't be allowed to say that. But what I can say is there is evidence of this. There's also evidence that large doses of nicotine or smoking are just bad. What does it say? The dose is in the poison's in the dose, something like that. So we can look at these plant-based compounds and just understand we want to feel good, we want to perform well, and Mother Nature will help us do it, and plant-based compounds are a big part of it. The secret that no one had told me was that if you want to do the personal development work, if your body, your hardware isn't working very well, it's going to be really difficult, if not impossible. So get your body working well enough to make enough energy to create personal change. And that has been transformative for me. Indigenous cultures everywhere knew that there were 2 things that worked for parasites, for diarrhea. One of them is activated charcoal. The other one is certain kinds of clay. These are toxin binders, broad spectrum ones. So when I was in Nepal and Tibet, you could go to little street vendors and they have these little bags or bottles of charcoal tablets because there's a lot of giardia. There's a lot of parasitic things where people get diarrhea. And they say, oh, charcoal is what you do if you have any upset for your stomach. So if my kids have an upset stomach, do they get charcoal first? Yes, they do. Does it usually work to make it feel better? Yeah. If I eat something and I feel weird afterwards, I take charcoal and I feel better. It's pretty amazing, but this has been around for thousands of years, used in traditional Chinese medicine. The indigenous people in the United States used it, and you just go around the world like, oh, we all knew about charcoal. And charcoal is amazing because about a teaspoon of charcoal, depending on how it's made, can have the surface area of a football field. And what's going on there? Well, it's basically these crinkly carbons. So the little nooks and valleys and canyons in it have this huge amount of ability to bind to toxins, and it has a strong negative electrical charge. So you take this, if you take it with food that has mold toxins in it, it binds to the mold toxins to the point that in agriculture, ranchers will say, oh, I'm going to buy the food with these field toxins and storage toxins that we know is bad, but we're going to buy charcoal. We're going to put it in the food so the animals don't get sick. So I kind of think I'll do that for myself too, because their data set is very strong. And there are studies out there, not of anything that I manufacture, just of charcoal in general, looking at what it does to things like cholesterol, looking at what it does even for longevity in animal studies. They're living 15% longer from having this.